Hey, welcome back to another Habs Notebook report with the hockey coach Frenchy, directly from the beautiful country of Thailand. Holiday today, Buddha Day in Thailand. So what happening? How the bar was closed at midnight last night and are going to reopen at midnight tonight. Yeah, that's happening. So today we have to go at the temple. That's another story for another time. But tonight we are back for the notebook talking about the Montreal Canadiens. I'm going to review a bit what's happening on the Montreal, the first four game since the beginning of the season. I'm going to see a little bit talking about the NHL news and the recap of the season so far after 8, 10 days. And finally, we're going to talk about this fun news inside the Montreal Canadiens and a couple of question mark, concern, problem, and what is the missing piece for the Montreal Canadiens this moment, or a little bit a short term and a long term. So I'm going to give you a little bit more a report about this, and we are definitely talking about this. Don't forget, tomorrow night we are back for the play-by-play Montreal Canadiens, the play game number 5 of the season 2024-2025 against the Los Angeles Kings at the Bell Center before they take the road. They're going to go to the Islanders Saturday night versus the Patrick Roy. Yeah, Patrick Roy have a welcome back home in Colorado a couple of days ago, and they went by the score 4-1. Colorado is now looking good so far. Since the beginning of the season. We'll talk about that team the next couple of minutes. And then Friday night, join me with all the Montreal Canadiens fans. The Friday Fun Night where you have no template. That's simple. You go here and we go from left to right and we have a great time together. We do the Frenchy quiz at the end of the show. And we do, of course, the NHL prediction Saturday day of the NHL all year long. So join us. If you want to know this, it was not pretty the first day of the prediction. Nobody. You have 13 games in NHL. The best is with 7W. And the winner, Patrick Lawhite, with only 7W. The worst was only 4. So it's not a good start. Anyway, that's the Friday night that we're going to join us with the Montreal Canadiens fans. So thanks, everybody, to be part of the show tonight. Please don't forget to use your tickets. Like you go at the sport events, you bring your tickets at the entrance. Here, the same way. You bring your ticket. But what's the ticket cost? Here's your likes. You have to click on the likes. That's simple. Click on the likes. Now you can in, and then you can talk. Just kidding. But that's the way if you want to help in the channel. Don't forget to place on the likes. Tonight, we have Marko Larbi back. Marko is a co-host of the Notebook every Wednesday night. Sometimes we share the co-host with Marko. Many times we have Franks, and we're in our tap, we have other people. And tonight is back in the house. Now, many of you maybe not know him because you didn't see him last season, but he was with us the year before that with the brunch, the show, the Sunday morning. He was not really awake sometime, but now we bring him the night, so maybe he's going to be a little bit more awake the night compared to the morning, the Sunday morning. So he's back with us. Welcome in the house tonight with Marko Larbi. Nick Larivière is back at the Hockey Nation.
He
Let's
looks
go,
pretty
guys.
awake.
Oh
He
yeah,
looks pretty
I'm
awake.
wide awake at this time. At this time, I'm wide
There you
awake. So yeah, let's get started.
So Nick,
Welcome back.
welcome back first of all. Yes, Marco, and then maybe for a quick 30-second, a little bit where you at now, a resume of what you accomplished in the last couple of months.
So right now, what I'm doing is I'm kind of writing like independently, like on my own little website. Just sometimes writing a couple articles. I'm also looking to start a podcast. It's called Canadians Cafe. We should be up and going on Sunday for the first time. So that's what's in the works because I've decided I wanted to start my own podcast as well as work on here from time to time.
Awesome.
So you guys can look forward to that. I'll send links out to that once that's up and going.
Awesome. Marco, we know usually Marco is really into the channel every single day pop up, but the last couple of weeks with new thing happening to you, Marco, unfortunately you cannot be everywhere. You have to take your you sleep at some point or to recovery of your long day at the work. So maybe tell us a bit more what's going on, Marco, with you for the last 2 3 weeks, maybe a little bit
Yeah,
more.
no, for sure. Yeah, it's been super busy. I just had a new job at work, so just taking on a little bit more responsibility. So it's been kind of long hours, but it's been fun. Like it's been great to be able to jump on here at least every Wednesday. It was nice to connect with you guys on Sunday too. But Coach, I'm wondering, like, if the bars closed at midnight yesterday, did you go try to get a massage at the temple, or how did that work?
No, what we did, so I always like to have a new experience, right? So I just, because now I live in Pattaya, so I went to the bar earlier. It was packed everywhere at 9 o'clock. Like everybody go out. And so what happening, guys, is that the freelance or the woman want to pick their man before midnight. So that's happening there. Then I went to a place. I said, I'm sure they will go a little bit later. And I knew that. So you have a guy, the name's called I Bar. It was 12:48. It was still playing music. And then what happened? They had a prevention walking people, whatever they call it, and they shut down the bar. They were still open, so they shut down at 12:48. And now everybody go back on the street. It's like it's like the girls want to bet they get so the men on the street. It was just funny to see that. But I see something really unique, Marco and Nick. I don't know if I have to tell you that, but
Now you
I'm
have
going
me
to
intrigued.
I'm going to
What
see
is it?
this, but I don't know if you can imagine that. So I walk, like I said, and then I have a guy, a friend guy I met a couple of days ago who was with me. Then he met the girls. So anyway, he split with me. So I'm walking, but no, he followed me, and we walk, and it's a narrow sidewalk, and then it's like two people, and then you have to turn a little bit, and you go. So I see the girl coming to me. She was looking good. I look at her, and to let her pass, I jump on the side a little bit to let her pass, and then she started about 5 feet from me. So I turn around to my guy, and then he said, "Look." I turned back. She sat down. She has her phone, Marco and Nick. She started to pee.
What?
She started to pee, Marco, straight there with her pants, like you can see down. You can see down, and then you go down there. You can see the water all the way down. It's like
Oh my god.
she
Coach,
never
some people.
moved, Marco. She never moved. Now we have to go after
Some
that
people.
because I two other girls. It's crazy in Thailand, right? Two other girls coming. I saw them at the bar, so she picked me up, and we walk all the way up. But right there in front of us, I don't know when she stand up, but I don't know what it looked like her pants. But it's the first time I
Well,
Like,
see
Coach,
that straight
I
line.
think
not
I think
even.
some people pay extra for that, right? So I think you
Yeah.
pretty lucky, I guess.
No, but
Yeah.
this Thailand, by the way, so it's nothing shocking, honestly. But this was the first time I see that that way. So
Right.
anyway, we're going
No,
to
no,
start. At the beginning of the
yeah.
show, we always like to talking about friend story, but now we start to go back in hockey, and I'm going to start with Marco about this. And Marco follow a lot of hockey, like Nick too, in our tap. But I want to see a bit a recap, Marco, of the first 10 days in the NHL. Overall that. But before that, Marco, if you don't mind, I skip one thing: the injuries, the Gaudreau, and the news, and the Amazon Prime. You can pick up a couple of days there. Grant Branson, Columbus Blue Jacket, is going to be on the ER for the Columbus Blue Jacket, and then we have also a news for the Pittsburgh Penguins and Mr. Marco, your best friend, who Rod- Roger.
Who? Oh, Mr. Rutger
Rutger
McGrory.
McGordy.
Yeah. Coach, okay, well, yeah, let's get through some of these NHL hot topics. So, in terms of injuries, listen, it's the beginning of the season, right? So there's always going to be a couple of kind of things that happen. I think there was probably more in the preseason, right? So right now we're seeing a couple things, like you
Yeah.
mentioned, Gut Branson and everything. But I don't know, Nick, if there's anything on the injury front that really kind of stands out. I think I really want to touch on the Amazon Prime for sure, because I think that I watched the first game on was it on Wednesday? No, on Saturday or no Monday.
Monday night.
So yeah, Monday night,
Monday,
and
yeah, Monday.
yeah, it was such a great experience, guys. Like, what a great, first of all, just the video quality, I think was really, really well done. Brand new kind of presentation as well, too. Like, just really well. The graphics are really good. The intermission was decent, but they have John Forsyth, I think his name is Forsling or whatever. They used to do the Carolina Hurricanes games that was doing play by play.
Right.
So really, really well done, and I think it's a really good partnership for the NHL with Amazon. You can see, I think Gary Bettman was in Montreal for the launch of the first Monday Night Hockey on Prime, whatever the name of the show is going to be, and you can see that overall, like these big kind of like sports companies, like Sportsnet or Bell or other companies, like maybe the NHL is kind of seeing that there may not be the same appetite to kind of have the same kind of deal when the current deal stops in a couple of years. So I think the NHL is already kind of planning ahead, thinking about kind of how they can use streaming services in the future. So for me, the experience was really good. Like, I really enjoyed it. I found there was less betting commercials. There's still a couple of betting commercials, but less. So I like that as well. Did you watch it on Prime, Nick, or did you watch it on
No,
RDS?
here, neither. I was at the game.
No.
I
Oh,
actually won tickets through Mega Fan Ford, and that's what I was
nice.
gonna say. Like, otherwise, I was gonna watch it on Amazon Prime, and I'm actually looking forward to actually watching next Monday. I'm not exactly sure who it is, but I'm looking forward to just seeing it because I heard a lot of great things. Like, just as you said,
Yeah.
I heard like just like the whole presentation was really good. I watched maybe a couple seconds before the game started, and it looked like they knew what they were doing. Like, they had Messier, like the whole panel with Messier. I couldn't. There was
I
someone
think that was
else I couldn't
that
remember.
was the main guy. They had Messi. I didn't even know the other two
Yeah,
people that were on the panel, but they did a good job. Yeah. So
yeah,
and
yeah.
so
They sound
basically it's just going to be Canadian teams, right? So I think it's going to be a
yeah,
different Canadian team every Monday. So yeah, I
yeah,
recommend everybody
exactly.
pick it up for sure. It was really good.
The
Uh,
report,
It's definitely something people should look into for
yeah,
sure because like
the
they
report,
it
Marco and
really
Nick.
did sound good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
go.
The report was about the fact like the quality of the image was really good for what I heard,
yeah,
and they add more camera for that special game
yeah,
for Amazon Prime. And look, this is the new ways, right? The streaming is coming more and more and more, and the power that
Yeah,
Amazon could maybe make an impact in Canada. I still believe and Quebec is special, so they will still keep maybe a LDS game or a sport
yes,
night. But
yeah,
I think it's good for hockey. I think this for me,
yeah.
this is great. Better image, better camera, everything that's better. And at the end of the day, I don't know how many people is not, yeah, we don't have the Prime Amazon, but it come with what you order every single month. So when I was in USA, I always have like order 2 3 things per week, and then I can
yeah.
watch movie, I can watch NFL. I think
Yeah.
they got a deal with the MLS, I believe, if I can recall it. So they have a lot of things
They
coming
also
now. Netflix got the WWE, I think, the last couple of days. So maybe so at the end of the day, this is something is coming for the new way to watch the NHL, and would be interesting to follow up about that.
yeah,
I want talking about Johnny Gaudreau. I don't know both of you see that
yeah.
special
Yeah, it was
presentation there. So Nick, if you want to
it was
something on on the Gaudreau.
yeah, so I watched the presentation of like the whole ceremony, and it was just beautiful what they did. And even with the Florida Panthers bringing Skittles and purple Gatorade to the game, just on behalf of what Matthew Kachuk told them about, even though he couldn't be there. That was really nice of them to do that too. So they were really in it. They had their jerseys. It was just like the overall perfect ceremony, I would say, for like honoring him.
Yeah, I think Coach
Like
was
he,
yeah, it was super well done. It's always kind of I'm sure that they were nervous in terms of how how do you kind of manage something like that, right? Like you don't want to look like you're taking advantage of it. You don't want to look like you're kind of exploiting the situation either. So I think it was done very tastefully. The family got to like, to me, the thing that was the most heart wrenching to watch is, I don't know if it's because I'm a dude, right? But it's like seeing the dad choke up, seeing Johnny Gaudreau's dad
Yeah.
choke up like that just gets you. But just, yeah, very touching, really nicely done what they did with the opening face off to, like, pulling the puck back to
Oh
the
yeah,
left side. He wasn't there.
that
So really well
to me
done.
that was the
It's
most
almost,
beautiful thing.
yeah, it was super well done. It's almost kind of like they consulted Montreal, right? Because Montreal is usually known for these
Honestly,
really,
Marco, do you know who did it?
who?
Sean Monahan.
Yeah,
He's the one
Sean
that
Monahan was
organized it.
Sean Monahan was the one organized everything. He was also the one he said to put Sam
oh
Bennett on the right winger beside Johnny Gaudreau, play with him
Wow,
also. He set up everything for
oh
the Columbus Blue Jackets. Sean Monahan was really involved about that. Today it
that's great.
was reported by
and
Renaud
he
Lavoie today this morning. So I just want to clarify, mention
I
that.
didn't
So
see
uh,
that, but that's really cool that he organized it like from scratch, like having like Sam Bennett obviously knew him very well, and I know that if Matthew Kachuk was there, he would have been on the ice then too. It
Yeah.
would have all been
Well done
players that
overall.
maybe
He was only missing is the win of the Columbus Blue Jackets. But again, like imagine at the end of the day, they are human beings, right? They are people. They are not hockey players for the rest of their life, right? The second thing I would say to you, how can you prepare to play hockey after those kind of moments? You have a presentation like that and your mindset. Yes, this is the job. Yes, but you can see the first period they was gentle between all of them. They was not try to get anything there. They play the game, but not exactly the way you expect. But again, well done for the Columbus Jacket, and we wish the best for the family Gaudreau, the mom, the dad, the NHL helping them. And this is just the beginning of talking about Johnny Gaudreau, and hopefully they will continue talking, keep Johnny Gaudreau live, and I don't expect something
oh yeah.
big going happening, Marco and Nick, at the Four Nation tournament. We know Johnny Gaudreau represent Team USA at the World Championship. The last time played with Cole Caulfield, by the way, joined that tournament a couple of months ago, and you could be part of the Team USA. So expect something again about Johnny Gaudreau, but again, really sad for the family, of course, losing two kids like that
I'm
at the same time. The mom and the dad, 60 years old. We have three kids. You do two, and at the wedding, and the wife pregnant at the same time. So a lot of
yeah,
bad things about that. So let's move on, guys, if you don't mind. The
yeah.
recap of the NHL, the first 10 days. Not maybe what is the most concern or what is more impressive. Maybe players, team, whatever. And I will start with you, Marco.
Well, there's like most seasons, coach. Like you always have a couple, kind of surprise teams that start off kind of hot, and like you kind of wonder if it's going to be something that's sustainable. So this year's team is the Calgary Flames, right? So the Calgary Flames off to a 4-0 start. As Habs fans, we're all excited about that because we all want them to finish over 11th overall. So, coach, I guess the seasons kind of are different but similar, each year. Like you have kind of teams that jump out to these quick starts. So, good for Calgary, like they definitely kind of, they made a couple of subtle moves, like Anthony Mantha's come in and played really strong. And, so overall, like a nice story there. And then, if we're staying in Alberta, then you have the opposite, you have the Oilers story, which only got their first win last night. So second season in a row where they kind of get off to a bit of a tough start. But listen, like I try not to put too much stock just in the first maybe 10 games of the season. Like you hear a lot of people say, like you can't win a playoff spot in October, but you can absolutely complicate yourself from being in the playoffs in the month of October by coming off a
For
really,
sure.
really slow start, right? So I don't know if there's like any stories that really surprise me, I guess. Like again, if Calgary maintains, kind of like this kind of winning, obviously they're not going to go undefeated, but I'd be surprised if Calgary kind of continues to be like an over 500 team, to be honest. but it's a good story for now. You mentioned Colorado earlier, off the tough start.
Yeah,
Like,
I was.
yeah, like why don't you talk about, like, I think Nick, like everybody
Oh,
that's kind of at Colorado, you kind of look at their lineup and you can kind of see maybe like some
but
lack of depth and some goaltending issues, right?
yeah, it's really the goaltending issues right now. Alexander Gorgiev is like the worst goalie in the NHL right now. He's been pulled, I think, 3 times so far this year. Every game that he plays, it's just worse and worse, and they keep throwing him out there every night. It should be
Yeah.
the point where he shouldn't even like start at this point, but they continue to throw him out there, and then they're out of the game after the first period. Look at it pretty much every game.
Yeah.
It's a serious issue, and it felt like that was going to be the problem with Edmonton, but I think it's just nothing is clicking with Edmonton till last night in
The thing with
general.
Yeah, like with Edmonton, it's weird. Like, remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but last year, I think they led the NHL in goals disallowed, and already this year, I think it was going into
They
the
are.
second. I fell asleep or something like that around this halfway through the second period, but I saw that they had scored 3 goals so far halfway through the game yesterday, but they had 4 disallowed halfway through the game yesterday, right?
Yeah,
So that
which is
kind of shows you
crazy.
that the hockey gods are just kind of plotting against you at this stage, right? But coach, like,
Right.
listen, it's early yet. Like, I don't see any major surprises other than those couple of teams. But again, like, I don't put too much stock into things. Like, teams are just starting to kind of get their groove and everything. Defenses are not really kind of set yet. Goaltenders, especially with, like, similar to Montreal, a lot of teams didn't really play their full lineups and things like that. So interesting. It's
Yeah,
great to have hockey back. So I'm excited, but I'm far from reaching any conclusions on any teams right now.
yeah,
4-0,
for
the
sure.
Toronto
It's
Maple
too.
Leafs, by the way, just scored a goal. Um,
Yeah, awesome,
McMahon,
Matthew.
McMahon have to go tonight. Um, I just put this in the chat, Marco and Nick. I think like the two defensemen, Danev and OEL, stabilize the defensive of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Um,
Yeah,
and that will helping the
especially.
team. I think they have, it's not a perfect team yet, but I think they're looking good with those two players under, over Giordano example. I think that's
Yeah,
a
Yeah.
plus for that team. But I think I want to talk about two teams. I know you talked a little bit Calgary 4-0. That's impressive for me. But on the flip side, the Vancouver Canucks 0-1-2. And those 3 games, it's not looking good. Like if you watch the game, I see 2 of the 3 games. They look like they struggle as a team together. I know Browser scored a couple of goals, but the goaltending look like that's the problem they have without the damn coach. Zilab does not step up. Have 2 bad games so far, and of course the backup. I think was linking in the last thing they pick up on the on the UFA, and it's not looking good at Vancouver. I know they're late, and then I want to talk about the Nashville Predator. What expectation was
yeah,
high over there? Did not start a good year so far. So be interesting. It's a little bit earlier. We all agree about that, and but
Yeah, it's way
the
too
game in
early.
November
Just
and October are also important, like it was in April. So we'll see. Randy Walkman is back in the house. Welcome back, Randy. Hopefully, you're doing well. Raleigh just scored a goal at 4-0 about that. Don't forget,
oh yeah,
everybody, to click on the like. If you don't mind, that'd be great. Now we talk about the Montreal Canadiens. We hit the 8 o'clock or the 9 o'clock. So that's what we used to do for the next 60 minutes. The recap game of the all-four game in NHL. Today, they said the defense of Montreal is the worst on the 5 versus 5 since the beginning of the season with on the GSVA goal against. Um, but what do you think about the first 4 games overall for the Montreal Canadiens?
okay.
The best or the
It's
worst, whatever it is. Nick, you're going to start that one.
it's funny that it's the worst defense in the NHL when arguably the best player on the team has been a defenseman, but like no one else has been able to step up defensively. Caden Gooley, I don't think he has been on the ice for a 5-on-5 goal against yet, which is
sure.
incredible compared to everyone. Like I saw the plus minus. He's +6. I think no one else is like over +2 on the team. He's just ridiculously amazing this year. But that leads a big problem on defense. When it's not Caden Gooley and Hudson on the ice, it just seems to be a huge issue. Like Savard has had probably the most abysmal start to his career for a season, and that's probably why they keep switching the lines up to Gooley and Hudson every game. But at what point do you think we should see Hudson and Gooley to actually start a game? Because every game it goes back to Hudson and Savard, and every game Martin St. Louis switches it back to what he did mid-game the game before. What do you guys think on that?
Well, like, when it comes to, like, so coach, you're alluding to the goals are above expected, in terms of goals against. And I think it speaks to a lot of things, right? Like, ultimately, to me, what I find ironic is that in training camp, St. Louis was talking about how they focused most of the training camp on their 5-on-5 play, and that they didn't really focus too much on specialty teams. So, Nick, like, in terms of, like,
Yeah.
when I think about, like, goals against, I know people generally kind of think about defensemen, but to me, it's more than that, right? Like, it's the 5 players on the ice. Defensemen are just a part of how you defend, in your own zone. What we hear, coach, in terms of Martin St. Louis' kind of approach here, and I'm interested to kind of see what you guys think. Like, so his theory is that the reason that their goals against and their 5-on play and why they're getting pinned so long in their own zone is because they're not spending enough time in the offensive zone. Listen, it makes sense, right? Like, if you're spending, he calls it their deep game, right? So if you're going to have the deep game, then of course you're not in your own zone defending. You're forcing the other team to defend, and then they're too tired to come and attack up the ice and everything else. So listen, that makes sense to me. The one thing I'll agree with St. Louis, a lot of the chances that Montreal is giving up, not a lot of them are on the rush, right? So St. Louis did point that out. It's not like teams are going through the ice and kind of like completely breaking down their coverage. Where things really break down is in that hybrid man-on-man coverage that St. Louis did allude to that they were going to change this year. So Nick, like, I get it, like St. Louis did talk about kind of why he's doing that with Savard. Like, I think they realized this year that they want to bring down Savard's minutes a little bit more. St. Louis talked about how if you want to get the best of David Savard, it's like Gallagher, right? Like, you get the perfect Gallagher if you're playing him for 12 or 13 minutes max. Same thing with Savard, right? You'll get the best Savard if you have him like around 16 or 17 minutes, unless there's tons of penalties to kill. So
yeah,
I'm fine with them tinkering with the D pairs. To me, coach, like, the biggest issue again is, and St. Louis talked. For the first time, St. Louis, coach, we talked about this all last year. Montreal's second period with the long change. For the first time, I heard St. Louis actually bring it up and acknowledge that was something that was a real problem for them. So to me, that's still the problem, coach. Is I get it. Like, it would be nice to spend more time in the D zone. In the offensive zone, so you're not, kind of dealing with the other team in your zone. But to me, it's the puck retrievals, being able to break out of your zone and execute. It's all execution. Like sometimes you hear people talk about the fact that Montreal doesn't have, kind of a quality talent enough to kind of to really compete with these other teams. I think they do. It's just a matter of executing, right? Like, there's no reason why, they can't somebody can't like accept a pass when the pass is right on their stick, or they just hesitate for a minute. It's all confidence. It's all execution, in order to break out of the zone a little bit quicker, so they don't get trapped there for 2-minute shifts. And that's kind of where things get off the rails, in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely is an issue when you're getting stuck in your own zone. But another thing that could help is winning faceoffs. Aside from Suzuki, who's at 52%, everyone else is below. I'm not going to count Anderson because he took 3 faceoffs, won 2 of them. Good for him.
Yeah.
But the main issue is the second line. No one's winning faceoffs. You have Doc at 18%. You have Newhook at 35%. They're the two worst on the team. You want your second line to work. You want to get some secondary offense. Start with the puck. So the other
Yeah,
team always starts with the puck when they're on the ice, and that keeps them in their zone, and it causes chances like that. And when Doc gets better, because obviously he needs time to get used to it after taking a year off, but at the same time, it does beg the question: can he play center? Can he be
yeah.
a
And
centerman
let's
at the NHL level? You need to win faceoffs. He's not
yeah,
winning faceoffs.
yeah. Well, let's save that one because I'm sure we'll dive into that a bit more. But coach, at the end of the day, like, it's not acceptable, right? Like to me, my biggest takeaway is, coach, I'm curious to see what you think, coach. Like, didn't St. Louis tell us that was the thing they worked on the most in training camp was 5-on-5 and getting the goals against down? So to me, that's the most disappointing part. Is the ability not having the ability to kind of get out of the zone a bit quicker and not get stuck there. I think that's a big problem.
It's very interesting because the preseason things, right? The 5 versus 5 is good. The power play was bad. And now the 5 versus 5 is bad, and the power play is looking good. So everything it was, complaining about the preseason game, it was looking good on the season, and what they are missing there. But again,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to make an excuse, but the young defenseman, the age experience make an effect on that situation, and the fact also David Savard does not play at the David Savard that hurt the Montreal Canadiens because he's a part of the top four. And when if you remove him, Marco, we don't have anybody can take this spot with consistency from Montreal Canadiens. So this is the biggest problem. And what happening with that now is mess up everything. And now you find way we have to use Barron on the first pairing with Madison. It's not the best pairing. And then you have to use Goulet on the with Hudson. He doesn't want to bring Hudson again, the best player to opponent team. He's a little bit stuck what they have right now, and that's missing. That's the biggest problem of the Montreal Canadiens. And the chemistry, Marco, like you said, between the player
Well,
forward and the defenseman, is not
that's
all together. They
Yeah.
have like two bad game against Boston and against the Pittsburgh Penguins. So it was like they was net dominate by the way they play on the defensive side. We see what happening with the Montreal again. For the recap camera, we don't want to see the other thing. I want to see about what you think about the start of the Caulfield or
Yeah.
the good thing so far after 4 games. So maybe you can make one specific players. Are you the most impressive, or you think like this is a good news for the Montreal Canadiens? So Nick, you're going to start with that one.
So my most impressive player, I mentioned him earlier, is Caden Gooley. Actually, I just find that he's rounded out his game perfectly. He helps out on the offensive side. He's great on the defensive side. He just does everything so well, and you could already see that he really can be that top pairing defenseman someday. He might not be elite, but he gets the job done. And alongside someone like Hudson, you need a guy like that. And that's what I think we were hoping for Savard to be for him, like a very like stable partner. But Gooley actually does better because he can bring a little offense to the table as well.
he can
And
skate.
I would, yeah, he can skate. That's it. He skates, but he also has. I've seen more offensive IQ in him this year than previous years. He seems
Yeah,
to get the puck
yeah,
in the right area.
yeah. Like what's if you hear Caden Gooley's interviews, like it was interesting, right? Like when he asked kind of what he was going to be focusing on this year, and some of the reporters kind of mentioned like, you're kind of becoming Montreal's like shutdown defender. He himself said like, you know what, like it's clear you have to be able to kind of assess your role on the team, and with players like Matheson and players like Hudson now that are carrying the puck and driving more of the offense, it's clear that I'm really really more focused on becoming the best shutdown D, and then trying to find opportunities to kind of create offense for sure. But you can like I like that self-awareness from him, like trying to mold his game around kind of what the team wants. I really
Oh
like
yeah,
the pair. Like one thing, Nick, that we've there's a couple of people in the chat all summer we're having this debate about whether it was a good idea for Gouli to play on the right side again this year. And I was super against it because,
Me
I
too.
feel that he was really struggling on the right side. Like when he was going back for puck retrievals, being on the wrong
Oh yeah.
side, there's a couple times like, he was getting those concussions and everything else. And I was really, really against it. But again, like I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. But what we found out just recently in another interview that Gouli did is that he spent a lot of time this summer specifically working on getting better on playing on the right side and figuring out how to retrieve the puck not on his backhand and how can he position himself to be more effective. So you can see really put in the work there. And if they
Oh yeah.
can have him on the right side over a long period of time, it's going to kind of release that pressure because they're waiting still for Mayu or Weinbacher to eventually maybe come and play those top 4 minutes, right? But overall, guys, yeah. So I agree, Gouli, very impressive. Uh, there's probably a handful of players that I think have had a good strong start. I think Caulfield had a
Yeah.
really really strong start, not just in terms of goal scoring, but I think he's been really feisty out there. Like
Yeah,
getting tangled
he's
up in the
better.
boards, like guys, even like.
He will.
So I like his
It's not.
physicality.
Yeah,
Go
it's
ahead.
not something that you saw in him as much. Like now he's actually getting more involved in the play and like
Yeah,
on the defensive side. Like I've noticed he's gotten better defensively. I was watching that closely. I think it was against Ottawa. Like I was watching his defense. I'm like, wow, he actually defends a lot better than he did last year.
yeah. Like
Overall, I would.
he's on the right side of the puck, right? Like that's where you look for him is he's never going to be a top defender or anything as a forward, but it's be on the right side of the puck, be on top of the puck. And but what I like is, again, he's feisty. He's a little bit feisty out there. So I've really liked that. Again, like Slafkovsky, like he's getting his points, but I can't say we've seen the best or not even close to the best of Slafkovsky
Yeah,
yet. You're seeing, to me, it's the Evans
I
line, I
think
think,
it's
that's been the most
Suzuki.
consistent, for Montreal, like that Evans,
Yeah,
Gallagher, and
and
Anderson line have been very,
Anderson.
very,
Yeah,
yeah, very consistent. I really like Dvorak's start as well. I think his Nick, you were talking about face-off issues, so he's by far the most dependable face-off guy that Montreal's had, and he's their only left-handed center, or left shot center. So I
yeah,
think he's been pretty important. And
yeah.
there's a lot of debate about kind of how to deploy him, but yeah, overall, coach, like I'd say there's a good handful of players that have had a good start. Some players that we talked about that are a little bit concerning, like Slafkovsky, Suzuki. I think overall the first
Yeah,
line had their best
but
game from last game, but yeah.
Talking about the
Suzuki has
first
been
line,
very no.
go ahead,
Oh,
Nick.
okay. Yeah,
Now you
I
can
was gonna
finish.
say Suzuki has been known to have slow starts. Like he sometimes, but normally he's getting the points like in the first couple of games, but you're still not getting the best out of him. It's kind of like what we're seeing out of Slavkovsky. Well, now since last game, Suzuki got two assists, but even at that, he wasn't that great defensively. Like the whole team on Monday just didn't have it defensively. I feel, and maybe aside from Gouli, Gouli was the only one that was there to really help Montembeault out. Otherwise, he was left to dry, and that was a serious problem. Look at that fifth goal. It was the worst thing you could ever imagine
Talking about the
from a
first
defense.
line, everybody, I want to talk about Juraj Slafkovsky. How we are too hard on him. We know we have 1 point per game, 1 goal, 3 assists. He was number 12 in the ranking of the most hit so far in NHL with 12 hit. Now he's 16 after the game yesterday. But still, that's something nobody talk about this. But is it because his consistency, Marko and Nick, about Stokowski, the reason he gets sometimes negative? Is it the defensive
Yeah.
side? He got cut to go yesterday against the Pittsburgh Penguins. So what is missing maybe for Stokowski compared with like he does not have right now compared last season? Still, I believe he have a good start overall with 4 point and 12 hit. And yeah, I would like to hear your point of view about that, Marco.
Yeah, I think it's again, I wouldn't say he's had a bad start. Like I said, like he's picked up his points and he's made a couple nice plays. I think what people are seeing is, and contrasting to what they saw last year, is just his overall kind of puck control, right? Like an ability to actually make plays. Like we haven't really seen him control the puck well on entries yet. We haven't really seen him, like, yes, he's made some hits, but last year he was able to take those board battles that he was winning and convert those into scoring chances down low for his team. Like you've heard me say here since the beginning with Slafkovsky, people tend to think that Slafkovsky is going to be a shooter, like he's going to be somebody that's going to score 35, 40
Ooh.
goals. That's not what Slafkovsky is. His superpower is somebody who's going to win battles down low and get assist. Breaking news, coach. What's going on?
Malkin score his 500 goal in NHL.
Oh, good.
Evgeny
Nice.
Malkin score his 500 goal against the Buffalo Sabres and UPL. So sorry, Marco, but I think it was
And not against. It's
Big,
important. Yes, for sure. That's big
big
news.
night in Pittsburgh. Crosby also got his.
Congrats to him.
Yeah, congrats to Malcolm. Big night in Pittsburgh. Crosby also got his 1600th point tonight too. So there's going to be a couple of there'll be some pictures with guys with pucks in the dressing room. There'll be a couple of those tonight for sure. So yeah, with Slafkovsky, coach, I think it's just all about being able to, like I said, win those battles down low. Because the key for that line for him is he's the one that kind of keeps plays alive, right? Like down low, so that Suzuki and Caulfield can kind of he's like a play extender for those guys, and his playmaking and his vision is really, really underrated. So I think for me, that's kind of what I'd like to see more, a little bit more consistency, a little bit more zone entries a little bit with him. And again, like I hope that, like, I think with his shot, like I know he's not going to be like a 40 goal scorer, but you'd still like him to shoot more and be able to shoot, like get the puck off his stick much, much faster. So not a bad start, but I think we're used to seeing a bit more from him.
Yeah, like you said, like we're used to seeing more from him, and the truth is, there's room for improvement with him, obviously. But it's nice to see that he's still a point per game, and this is not the best that we could see of him. He's a guy that we know can control the puck, can carry the puck. He probably has the best puck handling on his line. I'd rather have him control it than Caulfield. Caulfield's a pure shooter, to say the least. And then you have, well, he's got skills, but like I don't find him being the one that's gonna like carry the puck. He's the one that will rely
He's
on
got
like Suzuki.
Caulfield has underrated playmaking skills too, right? But like if you're talking about zone entries, Suzuki is the guy that you want. Yeah, zone entries. Suzuki is who you want doing the zone entry. But
I wouldn't actually.
Too.
I think Slafkovsky can be a good zone entry. Like he has that capability, and that's something that I would like to see. Like, don't always expect Suzuki to do it. That's one of the issues on the power play last year, was that he would always take the drop pass. Wouldn't it be cool to see someone like Slafkovsky do it? Because he can do it. He's probably the second best. Well, obviously Hudson would be the next best option, but he's not on the first unit right now. Let's just it's only a matter of time before him and Matheson switch. But I actually would make a different switch. I would actually put. You know what? Let's talk about that later. Never mind. But no, Slafkovsky, like he is proving that he is actually a power forward though with these hits, and that's beautiful. And he's going to only get better from here. And you're gonna expect him to get 25 goals. You shouldn't expect 40 goals from him. He does have a good shot, but that will never be his main tool in his arsenal. He will always have the urge to pass, and that could sometimes be a downfall on the power play.
Great point about Slafkovsky. We're going to move on. We talked about the defense a couple of minutes ago. They're struggling, everything like that, and Montreal have to figure out something. But I want to talk about Samuel Montembeault. Stat Consistency Team Canada. Today I have a report from the Daily the Daily Off website?
Daily Face Off.
Daily Face Off? Daily Face Off?
From Stephen Ellis. Stephen Ellis, I believe, is the name. He said today From the evolving hockey, Montembeault 18.58 goals saved above expect was 10 in the NHL last season. It was 13 in 2022-2023 with a 16.78 GSAX, making him one of the most consistency goaltender over the past two seasons. And he write that article uh, because he's talking about Marko and Nick, the team national Canada for the tournament in February. He considered Montembeault one of the seven other goaltender, and he feel like Montembeault could become that goaltender starter for Team Canada if he continues to performing like he did so far this season and the last two seasons with his consistency at GSVA. Now, that's your turn to tell us what do you think about that comments from Steven Ellis, and are you agree or disagree with
I'll,
that, Nick and Marco?
I, yeah, I'll start. Yeah, well, I do agree. Like, he definitely needs to be in the conversation. He's been consistent. Last year, he put himself, or I will say May of 2023, he put himself on the map with Hockey Canada, had a great world championship, and that was just the beginning for him. He has, even last year, like, he may have started off a little slow, but as time got went on, he got better and better, and we're seeing a lot of what he has last year come into this season. But the only thing is, can he stay consistent for a long period of time? If he goes through this, I would say if he's still a top 5, 10 goalie in expected saves above or saves above expectancy, he could easily find his way on to Team Canada, especially with a guy like Tristan Jari and Stuart Skinner. They're not having the greatest starts. And, like, Montembeault may have been behind them in view of a lot of fans, but it's very possible that in Hockey Canada, they they have him above Jari and Skinner, especially Skinner. Skinner may have went to the Stanley Cup Finals last year, but he's not the right goalie to carry Canada. Canada right now, it's sad to see our situation with goalies, but Montembeault, I think I could make an argument he's definitely top three and should be in that tournament.
Yeah, I think the thing with Montembeault guys, he just doesn't have that name recognition. You know that like at least like I think I agree with you, Nick. Like his performance at the World Championships definitely kind of he entered the chat kind of at that point. But I think with a lot of the more kind of English media across Canada, he just didn't have that same name recognition as Binnington or Skinner, or I think Jari's been kind of out of the out of that conversation for a while. Like he just hasn't really been very good. But
Yeah.
coach, this is not news, right? Like I think Steve Ellis watches the Hockey Nation podcast because I've been talking about Montembeault's saves over expected for like a year and a half. Like Nick, like in terms of
Yeah.
consistency is not an issue for him. Like coaches pointed out, he's
No.
been very consistent in that. Like I think the thing with Montembeault, the only real question is games, like volume, right? Can he play? Can he
In
do that over 55 games? Is really the real question. So listen, like in terms of
this
consistency, there is a point. I think somebody in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a point last year where he hadn't lost 2 games in a row and something like 40 games or something like that, right? Like to me, that's like
yeah.
the epitome of consistency. So really, the
He
question with Montembeault is not the consistency, but volume, the workload. Can you take the workload? And because I think psychologically, because there's two things that can change now that he's number one. The workload could become too much for him, or psychologically, like the pressure of not having Jake Allen there, being the number one guy, and all that. From what I've seen so far this season, it doesn't look like the psychological thing is an issue.
no.
Like I don't think, like so. Really, it's just the workload. Give him the workload. So let's see how he goes. Whatever happens with Team Canada, it is like I'm a Habs fan
Yeah.
first and foremost, so it would be great to see Montembeault there. But at the end of the day, I just want to see him keep that consistency with his numbers, and I'll be happy.
I think for me
Exactly. And I
about
think
Montembeault is about Marco. I think he was stuck with the was like he was always give a bad goal every game, like a soft goal for every game for the last his first 2 years with the Montreal Canadiens. Then after that, he's starting to give less. But it looked like the people still remember those kind of goals. Most that's what for me is the most important thing for him is to keep to delete that. If you give only three bad goals on every 10 game, Marco, this is what I'm looking for. Compared like he was before, like almost like 7, 8 game, you have always a bad goal. When you want to have a better team or to want to be in the mix, the big save and the bad goal, you remove it. That's
To
helping
me,
the consistency of
I
Simon
don't.
Montembeault. Look, yesterday, right? I wish he can make the save about last error, the second goal of
that
the
was a
Yeah,
bad goal. That was a
right.
bad goal.
his the goal that tied it. It was a bad goal, but what the heck was the defense doing? Like,
Yeah,
where were
but my
they?
point behind that
Why
is
was Slafkovsky there alone? That was
Well,
horrible.
yeah,
that's
but
fine.
my point behind that, Marco, is like after that he make a big save after the turnover. Justin Barron with the right pad. It was 3-3 at
Oh
that
yeah,
moment, right? He killed them on. Since that's what I'm talking about, right? If he make that save again, Eller 3-2 at the beginning of the third period is completely different. If you come
Yeah,
back with a 3-3. But
I
again,
think
for me, Montembeault is about consistency that way. But you nail it when you said, can he carry on? I think he
the
can
work.
be fine because
Yeah,
he carry on 40, 41, and 40 something Marco in the last 3 seasons as a starter. So it's about 7, 8 game
yeah.
more. If he can manage his time on the between game, I think he's going to be fine. I don't see no problem with that part. And then
It,
remember, I would love to see. It's impossible, but put Montembeault with the Tempo Bay Lightning example. Put Tempo with the Dallas Star. Put with a better defenseman and fire him. What it will look like
oh
Montembeault
yeah,
for them
yeah.
because we
for sure.
forget that he's
One.
one of the youngest team defensively in front of him, and that's not helping him. So this is why I
Yeah,
have a value. Me, I consider the value of the GSVA is so good for Montembeault because he make a big save with a young defenseman all the time in front of him. The Buffalo Sabres tied the game 4-4. Peter Carr scored his second goal of the game. If you have
Wow,
Peter
Peter.
Carr on your fantasy, it's a good news.
that's good for Paterka. But yeah, no, it's for like Montembeault. A good thing is that when he allows a bad goal, it seems like it no longer affects him, and he is able to bounce back. And I think that goes with a lot of maturing as a goalie. I don't even think at 27 years old, well, he'll be 28, I think, in a month or so, uh, that he's hit his prime. Because a goalie's prime, I would say, is maybe like 29 to like 34 if you're healthy. Unfortunately, in Carey Price's situation, it didn't work out that way. He had it at a younger age, but
Yeah, I don't know,
look,
Nick, if that's going to be the case anymore. Like the whole goaltending position changed so much because of the reverse VH and all the techniques that they use now. It's so hard on the hips. I wouldn't be so like that's why
okay,
you're going to see workload of these goaltenders. They're gonna you're never going to see a Bradar and like it's so rare to see
yeah, no,
Vasilevskis and guys like that play like 60 games. I would like I
it's not
guess
gonna
we'll
happen.
see, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if you see the longevity of goalies' careers get a bit lower in the future, just because the position is so taxing with the style that they play now. Like that reverse VH is so hard on their hips that yeah, like it's something we've debated here for a while. Is at some point we think that, and Coach, I think we've talked about this, that the NHL should make it so that you can carry three goalies on your roster. Just
Yeah,
because I think
that
in
could
the
be.
future it's going to be hard, right? Like you, in order to be a successful team, you absolutely need three goaltenders in your organization to get through a season, and I think it's just going to get worse, right? But Coach, like
I,
I listen to me, it's not really. I don't think it's that he gives up bad goals that consistently. I think like for me, what I look for in the goaltender is like you said, is the big save at the right time. You can give up a bad goal, but if your team comes back and claws their way back in the game, it's making that last save like when it really matters. Like it's the old Grant
yeah,
Fuhr kind of thing, like
it's
you know, knowing when to
it's
make
about
that.
bouncing back. You got to bounce back and not let it affect you, because there have been situations in the past. Well, I'm not saying with Montembeault, but goalies allow a bad goal and it just kills them.
Yeah,
Look at what Primo did against Boston. Like he allowed few bad goals, and it looked like it affected him when he was. And then there was that sixth goal that he allowed that basically put the game over, but it was like game over right there. But if he doesn't allow that sixth goal, who knows? Maybe the Habs also tie the game. And we're talking about a team that might be 2-1-1 or 3-1. Honestly, aside from the Pittsburgh game, I thought Montreal overall the players played fine. There's little errors against Boston, but I actually liked the game against Ottawa. I thought they played almost not a perfect game, but
Ottawa, yeah, like Ottawa was by far their strongest game. Yeah, like to
Toronto,
me, probably
I
the
felt
most
their
frustrating.
defense was.
If we're looking at the whole season, coach, so far, like to me, the most frustrating thing is that both losses, like both against Boston and Pittsburgh, they were they were both very beatable. Like Boston didn't really play that strong of a game. If they had just a little bit stronger goaltending, they would be in that game. And then with Pittsburgh, like I didn't think Pittsburgh, like Crosby was held pointless. So a little bit disappointing because the record could be even better if they just were a little bit tighter in certain things.
Yeah.
Well
For
said.
sure.
We're going to move on when we talk about the subject of the night. Honestly, the add missing piece for the Montreal Canadiens. You can see if you talk about Kubidak or Newhook or Army on the second line where they are not there yet, they're struggling. And Montreal Canadiens have a difficult time right now to find a second line. They have a really good third line. I think they are all three good line, right? This is the biggest problem. So what I did, I look about the Montreal Canadiens, and then I said, what is missing there? If you look about what they got, Marko, 26 years old, Patrick Laine, Zuski, 25, Caulfield, Doc, Newhook, Jekai, all 23, Cooley at 22. Then you have Roy and Mayu at 21, Slafkovsky at 20 with Hudson. Then you have Ray Barker at 19, and Dimitar Michael Edge at 18. We talk, for me, those kind of players, most of them are going to be the core of the Montreal Canadiens. And that's what I believe. But still not all of them, of course, but I think they're helping the Montreal Canadiens at long term. But at short term, they are missing problem. And what I did after that, I have to, the missing piece of the Montreal Canadiens for the upcoming season, what many people think they are going to be in the mix. I said no. It's because the second center right now, I think this is a problem. And he would could be that, I believe, 20, 30 game, maybe more. The first pairing on the right defenseman, they don't have. Whatever they have, Kaden Coley there. The problem is like a long term, it's not going to be that player there. It should be on the left side. Then the size of the bottom six, I think that's something they need to adjust, and they don't have on the missing piece. The player experience, when you're going to remove everybody for the last that is coming, the Armia, Devorak, Evans, Pesera, and David Savard. Montreal become again a younger and younger team. And then in 2-3 years, you have Gallagher and Anderson. Montreal will need to have some kind of experienced players at some point. And then finally, the Montreal Canadiens system is another missing piece of the puzzle. But is it because they are a young team? Is it because they don't have the right strategy? Put this together right now, Marko and Nick, and what you think I'm right or wrong. And if you can add one more thing, Marko and Nick, maybe a solution of that, or maybe I did not talk about a specific position. I didn't talk about a goaltender because I believe Montreal with Fowler and Tobesh, this is an area I think they will be fine at this moment. So, but what do you think about that situation, Nick?
Yeah, so again, the second line center, and I've wanted to be talking about this, obviously. I don't know if Kirby Doc is the answer. I actually thought he could be, but I think I was just looking too much. I had too much hope in like what he would do coming back, but it is going to take time. That injury is not something that you can just get up and go back to what you were before. But he never actually got the situation of the face off down, and that puts you behind, and you need someone that's more reliable. I also think that the second line center should be a left-handed center at some point. Maybe the Habs should trade for a guy that's like 26, 27 and just to give a parity, because we've too many right-handed centers. And I think that maybe Doc playing on the wing could do very well. I know this sounds crazy, but we never know. Maybe Demidov eventually can play center. Now, this is just going out there because he did say he can play it, but obviously he's not doing that in SKA this year. But whatever on that. The first
Well,
pairing right-handed
yeah,
D, I think.
Nick, why don't we go one at a time, right? So let's talk about center. We'll both go, and then we'll go to the
Okay,
next
yeah,
one. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
So
the center, yeah.
yeah. So okay. So would you have any solutions for? So like, okay. So you think Kirby Doc, right now he's not right there. So you're talking about trading. So you would trade for a left-handed center right now? Like, tell us more about that. What would you do?
I would trade like maybe a prospect like Philip Machar still has value, and I don't see him going very far in the future with everyone that's passed him on the depth chart within the organization. He's still young. I think you could still get some quality with him, and maybe a second round pick or first round pick. I'm not asking for like an elite center. I'm talking about maybe a center. I um like a Dylan Strome kind of thing. Like, a guy that has had experience putting up maybe 40 points, but maybe wasn't in the right situation, like in Chicago. Look how he's broken out in Washington. Like that's just a great example of a type of player of that skill level.
Okay.
I think
So
he would be a player.
okay. So for me, guys, like for Kirby Doc, like I think we all agree, right? We knew, well, you should have known that it's going to take a while for him to kind of get his sea legs and everything else, right? So I'm not really kind of coming to any conclusions with him yet. His issues with face off were a well known thing going into the season. It is a little disappointing that even though you haven't been able to kind of like skate, you hope that it's something that he would have worked on a lot this summer, knowing that he was going to be playing center. That's something that definitely you could have been working on during the summer. Like for me,
Oh yeah.
coach, we talked about this. Like for me, this whole year, the it's still about getting answers, right? Like yes, the first objective is to take a step forward, be in the mix. I totally get that. But to me, this year is still, it's not like last year we talked about, oh, it's about progressing. It's about, kind of improving and everything else. This year, it's about final evaluations. We're doing final
Yeah.
evaluations on, is Kirby Doc a second line center? That is a question that we're going to probably know the answer to by the end of this season. So for me, I've heard a lot of things out there in other podcasts and on Twitter, people talking about, why not throw him on the wing, move Dvorak to the second line center and things like that. Listen, like I want to win as much as the next guy, and I do want Montreal to be more competitive. But that is the point of this year, guys. Like we need to really understand, is Kirby Doc a center? Yes or no? So I think you have to kind of write it out. You have to give him at least, in my opinion, 25, 30 games at least just to write
At
it out.
center.
Yeah, at center. To me, you have to write it out. Like, and trust me, like, I'm okay with kind of moving the lines around because obviously the combination with Newhook and Armia isn't really working out. Like on paper, it looked like it might work,
Yeah.
but it's not. No. So for me, like at the end of the day, Nick, this summer I talked a lot about Montreal needing a backup plan for their second line center. I talked about Montreal trading for a player, like a young player, like a Dvorsky in St. Louis, like a left-handed young center that can come in and grow with the team. I think that's still something that they might have to do. Montreal has the assets if they do want to kind of move things around and get a young veteran left-handed center to eventually come join this nucleus. I think that's something they might have to look at. But I think to be responsible and to really kind of see this through, you have to give Doc at least 30 games at center I would leave him almost the entire season to kind of see where we are there. So, Coach, where do you land on that for second line center? Like, do you think Montreal needs to move right away, or do you agree that this year they just need to write out this experience and see what they have with Kirby Doc?
Exactly what I was saying is the development, right? So you have to, your answer, you have to let it go. I think the biggest problem behind that, guys, is honestly the injury that could be that year ago. Because your answer, Marco, would be already done right now today if you
Exactly.
are play
Yeah.
all year long that
And
season. So we are go backwards. Same thing with David Rebacker. I said the injury of Rebacker is worse at Patrick Laney because
For
now you
sure.
have to wait again what he looked like Rebacker to see exactly what he will
Yeah.
become in NHL. So the same situation could be
Yeah.
that.
and
This year, it's just about, the biggest problem for Gubidak, maybe it's not only because and the back in shape, but you can have a center play on the second line with only 20% face off or 25% face off. It's impossible. I apologize, but you cannot play. Whatever you are, a great hockey player, you have to get removed of the center position. So those sensors going to be one more year, and I would not make any change because of that. Yes, you people want to see him as a winger. The only way I do this right now is maybe to remove some pressure and to of maybe the mindset of Kirby Dak. If Martin will feel it, if not, let him there. Let him there. And let's see how he's going to improve with time. First, he have to return as a shape and then going to improve his face off. And for me, the biggest problem second line right now, Marco and Nick, it's about chemistry right now between three players. This is what he's missing right now. Yeah, no chemistry, Marco, between New Hope and Armia and Kirby Dak. At some point, I maybe make a
yes,
change, some sparks
yeah,
to wake up something there because right now there's not work. And if you have your second line, Marco, impossible to make the race and the mix. It's impossible. You cannot. You cannot. And you can see the Austin Bruins and the Brisbane Penguins took advantage of the second line to score a goal against them.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's easy.
The only
It's much easier against them.
the only thing you could hope for, coach, is you remember this summer when we did an analysis of each line and how many goals we expected. And I think overall, when we compared it to the rest of the Atlantic Division, we were pretty confident that this is with Line there, though, but we were pretty confident that Montreal's bottom six was going to be probably the best bottom six in the Atlantic Division because you have players like Anderson and Gallagher in your bottom six, right? And Dvorak and
And
like there's some really nice pieces in their bottom six, right? So even if that second line isn't able to produce at the level that you would want a second line to produce, like it's not ideal, but I think they're going to get more production in their bottom six than some other teams. Well, it's you have to
that's
wait and see, especially if Heineman
it's
continues to play well. And yeah,
yeah, and that's something I would not maybe want to switch. Like I maybe not put bring Hyman too high up because he's actually producing well in the bottom six. It would be cool to have a third, fourth line guy score 20 goals. He's looking like it's possible, and the same thing goes for Gallagher. Like when he does play like 12, 13 minutes, like you mentioned earlier, he plays better. I was going into the season even like thinking to myself like, what if Gallagher gets like a couple nights off? Like you'll just get the best of Gallagher. You'll have him like fresh. Like he doesn't have to play every game all the time. I
yeah,
understand his contract, but look, there's enough depth in the organization that I think he can take a night or two off from time to time if he starts to slow down. He hasn't slowed down yet, but when we get to December, January, it may happen, and we should be expecting something like that. And
so Nick, so
again,
Nick,
yeah,
just so we can move on, like let's so we want to talk a little bit about the right-handed defenseman. So as we
yeah,
know, like coach was mentioning, right? So huge blow to the organization with Reinbacher, taking this step back, not really being able to assess him this year. Mayu a bit of a tougher, well, not a tough camp, but
yeah,
didn't really, didn't make the team back in Laval. He'll probably see some games in Montreal, but overall, there's still that question mark, like for a first pairing right-handed defenseman. One name that's been kind of that we've been talking about here in our chat, and I'm sure it's been floating around, not just in Habs land, but all over the NHL, because Calgary's still perceived as a team that's going to be maybe selling is Rasmus Anderson, right?
Rasmus
So
Anderson. Yeah,
yeah.
I've heard a
So
lot of like
yeah.
ramblings that he could be the answer,
So tell us,
like
like,
an
so
answer.
Rasmus Anderson would be a good fit in Montreal, and what do you think it would
Yeah.
cost Montreal to pick up a guy like Rasmus Anderson?
Well, to mention like someone like I think a guy like Philip Machar would definitely need to be added for sure, like a young prospect.
I think you're overvaluing Machar. You mentioned him a couple times. I don't think he has that much value, Nick. Like not for.
I know, but you're gonna have to add him a first round pick, uh, probably a second even, and
Would
a
would
rough
you do
like
would you do Beck and a first round pick for Rasmus Anderson?
now that we have Kapanen, possibly like honestly, Kapanen looks like he's a step ahead of Beck. And with that being said, it may be easier to move on from Beck because you're only one of them can be a third line center. You can't. Sure, Beck would be nice as a fourth line center, but look, you also need room to have a left-handed center, and we don't have enough of those. So we need to get a couple of those into the organization. Even Michael Hage is right-handed. That's just that's another prospect that has a chance of maybe one day being a second line center.
But he is many
But
years away.
that
Many years
he's
away.
like three. I'd say 3 years, but
Yeah, and even
he's not going to be the answer.
when he does make the team, it's not like he's going to be in your top six right away, right? Like
Yeah,
you're going to want to integrate somebody like that into the team a little bit slower. But and one thing, guys, like if you saw that interview with Jeff Gordon on RDS, there was one little subtle kind of thing that I picked up on when he was asked specifically about kind of which players he really liked their camp and the start of their season. He mentioned other than young players that made the team, like Kapanen and players like that. He immediately answered Jake Evans and how impressed he was with Jake Evans' start to the season and how impressed he was. And then he mentioned the key part, which is Jake came in knowing that it's his last year on his deal, right? So
right.
I don't know if that gives us some insight into, because I think people in this chat certainly and people all over Habs land assume that both Evans and Dvorak are going to be gone at the end of the season. I've been saying for the last couple months that I think they need to keep one of those guys because I think you need a little bit more experience down the middle. I'm
Yeah,
with you, Nick, though, that they need a left hand. Like that's why I've been kind of leaning towards maybe trying to
keeping
re-sign Dvorak, maybe because you can probably get him a
if
lot
it's
cheaper
cheap.
of the deal that he's on now, and he's that left-hand
Yeah,
shot. He's really good face offs. But it seems to me like based on what Jeff Gordon said in that interview, they really are really high on Jake Evans, and maybe
yeah,
it's
and
something that we have to take into consideration. But
it's
going back into what you would be willing to give up for Rasmus Anderson, yeah, I don't think a Machar, or somebody like that gets it done. Like
maybe not.
because
You'd have to
Calgary is
throw a little more pieces. That's the thing.
a lot
But
more, a
like
lot more,
uh,
a lot
yeah, I
more.
guess the truth is Machar is the first one that comes to mind because right away he is expendable to the team. He'll never
But
make the Habs, I don't think.
Other NHL teams see that too, right? Like if you look at Corey Pronman's redraft that just came out, I think yesterday, he's I
I
think
didn't
the
see that
only
yet.
first round pick that wasn't seeded in the first round. Like he didn't even mention Machar, right? So he
Oh, okay.
his value is absolutely went down. I think he's had a strong start in Laval, which is great. Like he could still be an NHL player. But we've discussed it here. Like it's hard to see him
I
fitting into
agree.
Montreal lineup because they already have a lot
Yeah.
of small forwards, right? So,
Yeah,
coach, I know
exactly. And
we've talked about it a little bit here. Like, how do you feel about Rasmus Anderson? I know you like him as a player. Do you think he's the solution short term? Because again, like you mentioned, we don't really know what we have with Reinbacher. We're confident Mayu's at least going to be like a bottom pairing, could at least be a bottom pairing
yeah,
right-handed spot for us. So
maybe
what?
second pairing, but not first pairing.
No, Mayu's not going to be a first pairing. No.
No.
So
So
what's
for
coach's
me,
take on Rasmus Anderson? Yeah.
yeah, for me, I will not go that direction. Um, I will wait. Yeah, I will wait. I think if you want to use the UFA Marco, this is maybe a pushing, you have to go with that direction. That will give you a little bit more. I think we don't know yet what Rebecca can become. We don't know yet what Alson cannot become, what he can become. We know, starting to know exactly what Caden Cooley is. He's a first pairing defenseman. The beauty of Cooley right now, he can play on the right side, on the left side. So Montreal Canadiens could fix their own problem from the inside of their team with the prospect they have. And after that, they can maybe go from someone else. And they said, so I want to give a first round pick. I just checked the check run trade, Marco. The time with Arizona, Ottawa gave a first, a second, and a second. Then
Yeah, that didn't work.
they shipped him in Washington for Jensen and a third round pick. So, in my opinion, Montreal should wait a little bit because I think Ramus Anderson is good first pairing right now. But I think Montreal can get something bigger, Marco, a little bit later
Oh,
if they wait.
like what are you thinking? Like through free
Because
agency or through?
well, Ramus Anderson is on the second wave of the first pairing in NHL. He's not at the same
Right.
level like the top 15 defensemen on the first pairing. I think it's a little bit more the second wave. And since that goes, I think Montreal again need better, need more. If you want to become a solid defenseman, a solid team in NHL. Dappler, I don't know. It's unknown yet, in my opinion. So I will not go for Rasmussen. I will wait. And then we see Rebacker, Lane Hudson, Jekai, and Mayu. And don't forget, guys, Engstrom. 5-2, the King just scored. Engstrom it's called the dark or the
Dark
horse.
Horse, yeah.
Yeah.
Dark Horse.
I think Engstrom could mess up everything there. I think Engstrom could be a solid there. So for me, Marco, I want to go with Anderson. Wait a little bit like Kirby Doc, because Kirby Doc could be the same situation, Marco. We don't know yet what Michael Edge could become, Owen Beck and Kapanen. Maybe the answer of that second center is maybe inside the pipeline, or maybe not. And you say, oh, maybe we
Right.
can trade right now for next year for a center. But we said, no, wait again a little bit longer. Same situation for the
Yeah.
right defenseman, Marco. I will not trade for Anderson because he's a good defenseman.
I,
I think we need more on the first pairing because don't be surprised if David Rebecca could be close to Anderson. I think
yeah.
if we
Well,
have
that
Anderson a little bit more, Marco, uh,
Off, offense.
offensive side of the game compare.
Yeah.
On my
To
opinion.
me,
yeah,
the
that's something
reason
that
you
they.
the reason you consider that, in my opinion, coach, is not necessarily because Anderson's going to be better than Reinbacher in 2-3 years from now, because we know that Montreal also wants to, not at the expense of completely straying away from their plan, but they're also not against accelerating their plan. To me, Anderson accelerates things a little bit, and we've seen that Gordon and Hughes and Jeff Molson. Don't forget Jeff Molson in this, right? Like, who wants eventually to get some playoff revenue, they do
Yeah.
want to accelerate things. So to me, bringing Rasmus Anderson, I don't think you're like, one thing they talked about, if you listen to Kent Hughes very carefully, when he talked about right-handed defensemen, is he didn't want to bring in an aging free agent that's going to block some
Yeah.
of the young prospects, right? So to me, if you bring in Rasmus Anderson, he's playing in the beginning anyways, let's say the first 2 years, because he has 2 years left. Let's say he comes in for 2 years and he plays on your top pair. Then next year, if Reinbacher is ready, again, we lost a whole year of development with him, guys. But let's say he's ready. Maybe he comes in and can play on your bottom pair, and maybe Mayu, can play on your second pair, and then eventually they reverse, right? And then maybe you're right. Maybe Reinbacher does eventually go up above somebody like Rasmus Anderson in the depth chart. But to me, like it's like Line, right? Like, so they brought in Line as kind of like a transitional player don't forget, Rasmus Anderson has an amazing NHL contract, 4.5 million over the next 2 years. To me, that's what's going to
Yeah,
make
but
him
you
more
can lose
expensive.
him after that, Marco.
Yeah, you can.
That's true. You'd have to resign him, and he'll be like 7 mil plus for sure.
So
most
you can
likely.
move him. If Reinbacher is ready at that point, then you can move him at the deadline and recuperate some of those assets, right? But I like it because I think it's like I think they're also looking at accelerating guys. Like I think like we're talking about Hage and we're talking about players like that. Like these are long ways away. Like I don't think we can underestimate, like I said, the need and the interest that the management team has. Yes, they want to be patient, but they also want to accelerate. I don't think they're going to be that
Yeah,
patient. They want
yeah,
they want to be
and
in the mix this year. They're going to really, really want to be in the mix next year. Like really be in the mix.
I understand, like, Coach, what you said, like the Beck, Hage, Kapanen thing, but one of them is gonna definitely have to go. And look, not all those guys you can wait for them, and sometimes you, like Marco says, you have to accelerate a bit. Honestly, Rasmus Anderson, he's still young, and he kind of fits with this group. He also is a veteran that could help bring some experience and help guys like Hudson and Mayu grow as players too in the long run.
Imagine
And
Gooley and Anderson as a pair. Gooley and Anderson as a pair. That'd be all right.
that would be pretty. Yeah, that'd be pretty scary. Honestly, that would be a pretty big shutdown pairing that you wouldn't want to face in the playoffs. That's for sure.
And I
Wait,
think,
what
Coach, the
about?
last
Go
the
ahead.
last thing on your list, I think, was about having a bigger
Bottom,
bottom six. I think so. I think that will
but
come.
that's
Like,
coming.
yeah, we talked about this. Like, eventually they're going to get into the roster construction phase here, right? So, to me, like adding more size, like and mixing in those kinds of like gritty players, like when they have those core pieces and they know which ones are the core pieces, the ones they're going to build around, that's when you start kind of, if you don't have those in your pipeline, it's a lot easier to go trade for, a heavy kind of like, grinding third line center or third line winger that's going to play heavier minutes or on their fourth line. Those are pieces that are easier to kind of go and get. It's, in your top six, your top 4D, those are the core pieces that you need to have as your foundation, and then all the other stuff will fall into place.
Yeah, like look, and we never know what Luke Tuck can be. I feel like Luke Tuck is the perfect example of something that could end up being that heavy presence on the fourth line.
Yeah,
So I'm
absolutely.
sure he might get a few games this year at some point if injuries occur. Give him like a 3-4 game trial. Why not? See what he can do at the NHL level when the games actually matter, and if he
Yeah, let
can
him.
be an NHL.
You can let him cook. Like him and Jack, you let him cook. And there's again, they drafted Thorpe. I really like Thorpe in the preseason. So there's some candidates there. And
Yeah,
again, like we have a tons of other picks, Coach, and I'm less worried about that. I think overall, if you listen to Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon in terms of the type of roster they want to build, I think they understand size is important. But they want to be fast, and they want to have the right mindset too. So
yeah.
I'm confident they know what the template is. So I'm less like right now. I know Montreal doesn't have the perfect roster. Right now, it's still about really evaluating, and it's the final exam for players like Kirby Doc in particular this year to find out what we have. Gooley, I think, is already like you could argue the same thing applied to Gooley. This is a very important year for Gooley to establish, is he really like a top a top four or like a top pairing defenseman, and he's well on his way to kind of answering that question, right? So
I
let's give it.
mean, top four. He's a definite. He's a definite. It's just, can he be that top pairing defenseman really? Which
No.
so far he has proven, but we'll see.
We are almost at the end of the show. You want a controversy subject, or do you want a little bit?
No, I want to fight with Nick. I want to pick a fight with Nick.
It's
So
not like a fight on that one, but it's more like happening last night. But let's do something like 2 minutes for the next subject, and after that, 3 minutes or 4 minutes of the next subject. Does this make sense?
let's
Yeah.
do it.
So I'm not going to go on the clash, Marco, but I'm going to go that direction with only one. Mike Madison case, a David Savard case. Same or not the same? You trade them or you not, you keep them. So you split those two players, not only both together, but Marco, what it would be the situation with Mike Madison, 2 years contract right now for the Montreal Canadiens, and David Savard on the final year contract. And then I want to see, do you trade them or not? Or, and then if you keep them, do you resign them or not?
Okay. So let's start with Mike Matheson because that's the more complex one, I think. My views on this is pretty well known, I think, on this podcast that there's just too much depth on the left side for the Montreal Canadiens. I guess I absolutely understand that there needs, like, I don't want to be the Ottawa Senators from the last couple of years where there's not enough veteran leadership, or the Buffalo Sabres. Like, we've seen what happens when teams go too young, so it's important to have that balance. I totally get that. But it really comes down to just too much depth. And you know what, guys? I find that Martin Saint Louis, sometimes like when you over rely on something and you need to take it away from him because it's like a crutch for Martin Saint Louis. He plays Matheson too much. 25 minutes he's
Oh
playing this
yeah,
guy. Too much.
it's
So,
like
if I'm Kent Hughes, I'm like, Martin, you need to kind of like spread the Marty, you need to spread this around a little bit. If you don't smarten up, I'm going to take away your shiny toy, which is Mike Matheson, because I need you to play the other guys a little bit more. Like, again, we need to evaluate Jack Guy. We need to evaluate Justin Barron, and they're only getting like 11
see,
minutes a game. They're not getting those things, right? So for me, you move Mike Matheson. He's a grid asset, really good contract, like very similar to Rasmus Anderson, but on the left side, right? So to me, that's why I like the Rasmus Anderson possibility, because if you could move out Mike
if he's
Matheson on another deal, and then you can use those assets or something similar to go get Rasmus Anderson, you have the same
and
experience, but you have the right-handed guy instead of the left-handed guy. So that would be my take. What's your take on Matheson, Nick?
well, first off, I was thinking like we would need him for this year. Maybe not trade him at the deadline, but come the summer, with all the experience that the young guys are slowly getting, he would just be in the way. Hudson's going to take his power play. You would think. Hopefully with Marty, we'll see. Like you said, shiny toy. Who knows? But let's hope it happens soon enough. And really, Matheson isn't going to have a place here without causing a problem for the young guys that need to be more evaluated. So in the end, like maybe you can lessen his minutes to start off this season. Lane Hudson and Gooley can be a pairing if they need to be at times. And Matheson is definitely a big piece that can get you something. You could get a nice return. Maybe we can get a good forward in return for him. Maybe not the center that I said there, the 26-year-old, but maybe you can get that, like a second line center in some way
Doubtful,
for him.
doubtful, but at the
Yeah.
very least, yeah, at the very
When
least, I
I'm
think
saying
you get the equal of, like, if you go to trade Anderson for Anderson, you get pretty much the equal
equal,
value of
yeah,
assets you're giving up for Anderson. So it's almost like you're getting Rasmus Anderson for free, because whatever it is that you're trading out
yeah,
for Anderson, you're getting something similar back in terms of value for
for
Matheson. So it's kind of like a
exactly.
buy
It's
one
like
get one free kind of thing.
it's almost like a trade, a 1-for-1 trade, and that's why the Anderson thing makes sense. And then when you brought that up, it actually that's what makes it all make more sense to even trade Matheson in the first place. We need the depth on the right side, and at the
Yeah.
same time, just for now, I have trouble moving David Savard just because of how much experience he has, and like he could be re-signed for very very cheap. I'm sure, like even like as a seventh defenseman. I was thinking about that. Like, what if we sign him back as like a seventh defenseman as he's slowing down? Maybe this is a sign that he is actually going to be slowing down this year with his tough start. But that's okay because he still brings a lot of great leadership, and
Yeah.
the players love him in the room. And you got guys like that. Like, you remember Mike Weaver? He was amazing for as like a seventh defenseman for the team. The guys love that. And David Savard could be a guy like that. And that's why maybe I would kind of try and re-sign him.
To me, it really depends, right? Like, Nick, I really feel that Montreal is, we're past that phase where we're just about collecting assets as part of the rebuild. Like, that phase of the rebuild is over, where your main focus is to liquidate any expiring contracts and just getting a third round pick, like just like Pac-Man, right? Num num num, just eating all those, getting as many kind of assets as you want. We're past that. We're not at the stage where we have.
It's not going to work anymore.
No, well, we already have enough, right? Like we've drafted so many players. Like you can only have 50 NHL contracts, right? So there's only so many of these people that you're going to be able to sign. So to me, if you're trading Savard, unless you're getting a first round pick back, even if you're getting a late second round pick, I would rather
not
just
really worth it.
He's probably more valuable, even if he's playing that 12 minutes, and he's more kind of like Stéphane Robidas, assistant D coach, out there on the bench. I still think he's more valuable that way. And I agree with you. Like, I think he will sign at a huge reduction to stay in Montreal. He wants his family to stay in Montreal. So I think
won a cup. He does.
He'll do year to year.
Oh my God, I'm so disagree with both of you about that one over there. Oh, now it's my turn to give you my point of view about this. David Savard is older at 34 years old. If you want to have development, Rebecca, Mayu, and Barron on the right side, I think it's time for Savard to get out of that lineup to give those opportunities. Exactly what happened with Kovacevic for the Montreal Canadiens. Secondly, Madison is another. The game is changing. It's about puck movement. It's about rush. It's carrying the puck. You remove Madison, we don't have anybody other than fact Lane Hudson. And Lane Hudson is not the same style like Mike Madison. It's two different prototypes, sir. Who's going to carry the puck? It's not Jekai. Angstrom is in Laval. Yes, coming very soon about that. Kenan Cody is on the right side. So I want to carry on that one with Eric. Kenan Cody is not a puck mover. His skating is good, but his body guy can carry on the puck, make it fun with his stick and lane. Kenan Cody is solid on the 200 game, but he's not the puck moving. So Madison, you keep Madison there, you trade Savard, it's fine. The role of Madison is going to be exactly the same role with David Savard for the next 2 years. David Savard is just the same copycat as mentoring the young defensemen, talking to them, everything like that. At this moment, they have a final year contract. Let's trade him. Let's open the spot for Mayu at the trade deadline until then. At the summertime, if you look like the situation, I would prefer to get a defenseman younger, faster, play the same role like David Savard. Now, I don't want to give you a name. I don't have a specific name right now, but that would be helping the Montreal Canadiens if you want to go with experienced players. Then Mike Massey still have 1 more year with his final year contract, and a trade deadline after that, you're going to see exactly what it looked like: Adam Ekstrom, Jekai, Cooley, and Lane Hudson. If not, keep him all the way to the summer, and you're going to decide after that if you want to get him, everything like that. The Mike Madison, I think value and return, it's not too high like you think it is. For me, it fit very well right now what we had with Montreal Canadiens, and I think that's what would be my view of that Madison is Savard. Yes, David Savard love Montreal. Yes, he's a grandpapa, whatever you want to call it for the young players. But at the end of the day, guys, it's not what is on the bench and as a mentoring. It's about what he brings on the ice. And obviously, you can see right there, 4 games in 6 nights, and he is not there anymore. And the problem with that part again, the problem with Montreal has is simply like, we don't have that kind of player can set up over David Savard. If we have a rookie like Rebecca or Mayu, a Baron better to Savard, Savard become a third pairing defenseman at the right chair, Marko and Nick. But he's not there right now. He's a second chair, so he play a chair he does not deserve, or he cannot give that kind. Now he blocked the shot, but again, guys, Kenan Cody blocked the shot, and Baron blocked the shot, and I can go all the way like that. So
you're making our point.
Are you trying to say that Barron can do Savard's job on the right side? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm sorry?
Almost. You're almost saying like Barron can do Savard's job for cheaper. Almost. Like
the problem they don't have yet is Barron cannot pick up the second spot, or Mayu cannot pick up the center top, and Rebecca is not. This is a big problem. So Savard plays right there, but he should not be there. And this is what the lack of the depth of the
It's because
defenseman. That's why he was missing piece earlier, Marco, we talk about on the right defenseman, right? We don't have those kind of players yet. And until then, for me, you let go Savard anyway, and you're going to get a younger defenseman if you have to, or you can use your defenseman coming from Mayu. You have to open spot for Mayu, and you keep that
That doesn't
one.
make sense,
Tavares
though.
just scored a goal, 6-2.
But coach, like I'm having issues following what you're saying. So on one side, you're saying Montreal doesn't have a right-handed defenseman that can play above Savard in the lineup. I agree with you. Right now, they don't.
yeah,
So your
they
solution
don't.
to that, your solution to that is get rid of him at the end of the season. Like,
And so he
At the trade deadline,
and
right? You trade him at the trade deadline to open spot for the younger defenseman.
but they're
That's
not ready.
but
They're not.
yeah,
they're not.
yeah, I'm
Yeah, they're
right.
not
You
ready.
cannot keep Savard. You cannot keep
What?
Savard. The trade deadline is on
Did
final
you
year
just say
contract.
that? They're not ready, but they're not
Coach, like,
ready
they
yet.
don't need.
Mayu can.
They don't,
Hey, wait a minute. You don't think Logan Mayo will not be ready in February?
I
He
don't know.
will be, but
Maybe.
he
But
most
like,
like he probably could be, but yeah, he needs another half year in the AHL for
He's
sure.
going to be there
That's
and
my opinion.
before February with the Montreal Canadiens. Maybe sooner where we think he's going to be. Now he's
But
going to
even
be
if he
ready
is-
to be a solid four defenseman. No, but what I'm talking about is to give a chance, an opportunity to have some reps on the ice and consider development with Justin Barron. Savard is not on the plan for the Montreal Canadiens. What it would be the asset now? Savard become a 7 defenseman for Montreal Canadiens. It's up for the Montreal Canadiens. But for me, I would
Yeah.
trade Savard and I keep
But you see
Madison.
what-
Madison
that's what
have
we're
more
I'd
value
like
at
to
the
have-
Montreal Canadiens at short term or the transition at David Savard. David Savard have nothing on the ice right now for the Montreal Canadiens as short term for the next 2 years, whatever it is.
I disagree.
I do like having an older defenseman as a 7th defenseman because that's what should be in the press box, and he's around the guys and he can help them. That's why I loved Mike Weaver, as I mentioned. Like, he brought a lot of experience to the team and he helped the younger guys out. And Savard can be that type of guy, and he'll come at a discount. I don't see him requesting over $2 million.
He's the prototypical 7th defenseman next year, right? Like, he'd be the perfect guy.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
If
Exactly.
you're right, if Mayu is able to come in and if he wins a spot in the top 4, or if he's just being the bottom pair, then that's great. Like, Savard can kind of just jump in when needed. To me, that's perfect. Like, I just don't see the value. I think he's more valuable next year and this year playing less minutes and even being a 7th defenseman than like the 2nd or 3rd round pick that you're going to get for him. That's my opinion. And again, like for Matheson, coach, like the whole point, everything we've discussed is all around getting. If you could get Rasmus Anderson, then Matheson, you're kind of replacing that thing that you think that Montreal doesn't have. I would argue that they have a couple decent puck movers. Like, I think, like Nick said, Gouli can definitely move the puck. Certainly Hudson. So if you bring in Rasmus Anderson, we don't disagree with you that Montreal needs that type of player. The problem is that he's just left-handed. That's the only problem. Montreal has too many.
Yeah, it's too much. So if you could do a swap, I would do a swap day. And I think Anderson for Matheson is a great thing just because of the handedness. It's crazy to say, and it's funny that it's the complete opposite at center. I want a left-handed center.
Yeah. So coach, we'll see how it plays out, but again, the beauty of all this, guys, is that the good news is that Montreal has assets, right? This just confirms what we've been talking about for a long time is, this year it's all about evaluating what do we really have in terms of these players, right? It's not just about the process anymore. This is final exam time for some of these players. Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon. Absolutely. These are these are times where they need actual answers. Where are these guys going to be and how are they going to be able to help our team? And then once this season is done, Now we're really going to get into that roster construction zone. And that's where some of these really important decisions. And coach, you've said it before. We've talked about it here. You had that list of all the under 25 players that Montreal currently has in their pipeline. Don't be surprised if like 1/3 of those players never play for the Montreal Canadiens or get traded to build the puzzle, right? Like it's almost impossible. Like it's so rare. Like think of it in the history of the NHL guys. How often do teams that rebuild are magically able to draft all the matching players they need to build the perfect roster? That's not what you do when you're
It's
drafting.
impossible.
You're just drafting the best player you can. When like so often you have to you're gonna have like remember like McMillions, like when that game McMillions, like you're trying to kind of like match all the different pieces in the puzzle, right? Like you might get when you're collecting cards or you're collecting things, you might have several matching ones of the same one. It's the same thing with prospects. You might have three undersized skilled wingers. Okay, well they're all valuable assets, but you can't have three of them on your team because your roster is not going to make sense. So Montreal is going to have duplicates and they're going to have over representation of certain things. So they're going to have to look at all their assets, decide what they want to keep, and they're going to move things around to build a roster that's going to hopefully be able to win a Stanley Cup eventually. So, I would be shocked if, like, don't be surprised if Michael Hage never plays for the Montreal. Maybe not Michael Hage because he wants to play in Montreal so bad, right? So maybe that's not, but
No,
like
I disagree. Marco Hayes will be in
back.
Montreal for sure. But I can understand your point of view. Like, this is a part of, Colorado trade Rand O'Reilly. Colorado trade Matt Duchene, example, right? They just trade Barham a couple of months ago with that. So I think that would be the same thing like that. And, that subject was for 2 minutes. Imagine my next subject, Marco. If I was getting there, I would be there for 30 minutes. I'm not going to get there, Marco. I have to hold that one with him because it's going to be worse. By the way, breaking news: Alex Turcotte scored his first goal in NHL. 7-year-old
Good for him. Good for him.
5th-round pick. Turcotte in 2019 in Chicago. That's the year where everybody got by the team USTPDN. TBA, Cole Caulfield, Cam York, Spencer Knight, everybody get out of that trade or that year draft. It took him approximately 5 years, Marco and Nick, to make the NHL. Play game number 4 tonight in NHL only.
Really good.
This is the kind of player, like, guys, remind me Alex Barry-Boulet.
Yeah,
where good on the American Hockey League, it cannot make consistency in NHL. It's a 5th-overall pick, so that gives you some time. Your 5th-overall pick is not always perfect picks in NHL. Every day make mistake overall about that. So I think it would be very interesting what's going on with Alex Turcotte. So tonight, guys, the Buffalo Sabres winning 5-4, Marco, at the end of the game. Empty net goal? No. The Pittsburgh tied the game 5-5, and of course, the veteran Sidney Crosby scored overtime. So Buffalo again fall apart. And this is what showed to me, guys.
It's such a Buffalo
You have to learn to winning game. You have to learn to close the game, Marco, when you're a young team. And this is the biggest problem to learn in NHL. Montreal did against Toronto 1-0. But again, 3-2 again the Pittsburgh Penguins. They did that. So Pittsburgh Penguins come back 2 times now, back-to-back game, guys. And that team, Marco and Nick, it's still 37 years old, 38 years old. Letank, Malkin, and Crosby run that team. So that's happening tonight, guys. And that would be the end of this show tonight. Obviously, we hit we pass again. We like to do overtime, but at some point we have to stop. Nick, it was great to see you for the welcome back in the house. Hopefully, you're going to join us a bit more often. I feel like you're a little bit better the night at the morning, Marco. What do you think about that?
I like it. Yeah, nighttime Nick.
He's more awake. That's one thing for sure, Marco, about that. Was great to see you, Marco, again back in the house. We know you're very busy, and hopefully to see you around. If I'm right, Marco, the Boston Bruins score a goal against Colorado, take the lead 1-0. And I
Does
don't know,
Gorgiev
but
play?
I don't know too much about Cole. What key? I don't know his last name for the Boston Bruins. Koepke.
Kapka. Kapka.
So he is the
Kafka,
second goal of the year. He played a specific role with
he's-
Kastelik. Kastelik had 3 goals.
he's
That line for the Boston Bruins
actually
is
really good.
excellent right now for the Boston Bruins, and they play very well.
Kastelik is having the best year of his career. Like he's already got he's halfway to his career high.
Yeah, I'm sorry
It's
about that,
ridiculous.
guys. Thanks so much to be with us. But before we leave, we have to finish this win for Nick and Marko tonight.
You are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you.
Here we go, Marco. Be well, be healthy. Find a way not only to donate your day, but find a way to donate the second half of what, Marco?
Your 2024.
You did it again. Have an amazing, great night, Nick. See you next time, Marco. I will see you next
Yeah.
Wednesday for the Notebook. Until then, have an amazing, great week, rest of your week. And Marco, I know you work hard, but sometimes you have to recover.
Agree. Thanks
Go
very
recover.
much, Coach.
Have a good night,
Take it
Nick.
easy, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks so much.
Have a good night.
Come on, get a grip now of all the ways we parted. You showed in your own way we would stand and we would fall united. Come on, get a grip now. Just finish what you started. Don't like the feeling that I've been fooled, deceived, and so misguided. Oh, oh, oh. What do I know? What's going on now? Is this another breakdown? You and me, should I let go? I do really want to know what's going on now. Is this another breakdown? You and me, should I say so? We're just putting on a show. What's going on now? Is this another breakdown? You and me, should I let go? I do really want to know what's going on now. Is this another breakdown? You and me, should I say so? We're just putting on a show.
Oh. Here we go.
What do I know?
Booyah!